Okay, in this video, Landon, I'm going to introduce you to what is known as the zero product property. We're actually solving this equation. Notice that we have an equal sign. So anytime you have an equal sign, you have an equation. And this is going to have two answers because we have two m's, and each one is going to hold its own value. So let me first start by saying this is not difficult, and I believe just by watching this video that you can do it. If not, we'll just discuss it when I get to you on our tutoring session, but I want you to give it a try. Excuse me. First of all, let me just point something out to you. The zero product property is a really easy property. It's almost so easy that it doesn't seem like it could possibly be Algebra 2. But it basically says that any number multiplied by 0 equals 0. That's it. Okay? So, for example, if I take 3 and multiply it by 0, I'm going to get 0. 0 times 9 is 0. Or any variable times 0 is 0. Now what you're going to notice over here is that I multiplied two things together and I got 0. So something times something equals 0. So in order for this to be true, in order for me to multiply two numbers together and the answer is 0, I had to multiply it by 0. So it could have been this one right here that I multiplied by 0. So I'm going to set m plus 3 equal to 0. If m plus 3 is equal to 0, then I'm going to solve for m, which means I'm going to pull the 3 over to the right-hand side. And I'm going to get negative 3. Now you're going to notice if I take that negative 3 and put it right here, what's negative 3 plus 3? And I know you know that, it's 0. So 0 times something is 0. Now it could be that this m, or this group, made this out to be equal. So I have to also set this group equal to 0. And once again, solve for m. Okay? So what you're going to notice here, if you take this answer, m, this 1, and put it back up here, 1 minus 1 is 0. Okay? Now let's take a look at a few more examples, because the more you see, the better you do. But in order to learn something, Landon, you got to do it. So it's see, say, do. You're hearing me see and say. On your homework, you've got to do. Okay? So just give it a shot. No blanks. Here's another one. Something times something equaled 0. So that means that one of these somethings had to be a 0. Well, what would be the value of n in order for this group to be 0? So I'm going to set it equal to 0, and I'm going to solve for n. So what's the opposite of plus 6? It's minus 6. And that's my answer for that one. If I plug a negative 6 into this group, I'm going to get 0, which is going to make this whole thing equal 0, because 0 times something is 0, no matter what. Or it could be that this is equal to 0. So once again, I'm going to solve it, and it's equal to negative 1. And it's that easy. Basically, what you're going to begin to notice here is that a lot of times it's just the opposite sign. Notice that? Positive 6, negative 6, positive 1, negative 1. It doesn't always work that way for everything, but for these easy ones, it does. And we'll get to the more challenging ones in our tutoring session, but these are fairly easy. Now, I want you to remember that this notation means I have two factors, or two sets of x minus 5. So this is what it looks like. Okay? So, again, the zero product property says if I multiply two numbers together and the answer is 0, then I had to multiply by 0. So what is this group equal to make it 0? I don't know. I'm just going to set it equal to 0 and find out. Add 5, and you get x equals 5. The second group is identical. So we call that the same root, so you don't need to do it twice. It's obviously going to be the same answer. And I'm calling it a root in this case, don't worry about that notation. We'll talk about it later, but these are sometimes called roots. They're sometimes called zeros. Okay, zeros are a better name for it because that's what we're solving for. So if I put a positive 5 into this group right here, 5 minus 5 is 0, and 0 squared is 0. It makes that sentence true. Okay, one more. Sometimes we don't have two sets of parentheses, we just have one, but we have two x's. So you'll notice we have an x here and we have an x here. And I call this one the forgotten zero because a lot of times students forget this one or they don't know quite what to do with it. But this is counted as a 0. So if I let that equal 0, something times something equals 0, this x can also just be a plain old 0. Okay? And then this group, the value of x here would be -2. All right? So that is how you solve these equations when they're set equal to 0. All right, so that concludes this lesson. I want you to give it a shot on that homework sheet. Impress me, Landon. I know you can do it.